We appreciate everyone's time today and look forward to walking through the Acumatica Manufacturing Edition with you. Just for a quick agenda, today I'll do some short introductions and then do a quick overview of Aktion Associates and Acumatica. Then we'll jump into the demonstration and wrap up with Q&A at the end. So my name is Matt Jones. I'm an account manager here at Aktion Associates. I've been working in the ERP manufacturing industry for over 20 years and recently joined Aktion at the beginning of the year. And I'm joined by Jeff Spears, who will be doing the demonstration. Jeff has been working with Acumatica ERP for the last 8 years, both implementing and demonstrating the solution. So, prior to kicking off the demonstration, I wanted to give you just a quick overview of Aktion and Acumatica. Aktion Associates has been a trusted technology partner since 1979, supporting customers across various industries. Our team consists of over 240 professionals, and we have nearly 7,000 customers. We're one of the largest Acumatica software resellers in North America, and we're a nationally recognized value-added reseller for the work that we do to support our customers. The Aktion approach to software is comprehensive, but we also try to keep it very simple. We don't just provide software. We strive to understand our customers' businesses and challenges, and then deliver a complete solution with implementation, training, development, and support. From our many implementation projects and over 40 years of experience, our team has developed our lean implementation process. And this process was designed to keep our projects on time and on budget, and ensures there's ongoing communication with your project and executive teams, both during the implementation and after go live. As for Acumatica, is the only ERP company born this century, giving them a fresh and unique view of how modern business solutions can help solve problems and address pain points. From its inception, Acumatica has focused on catering to the needs of small and mid-sized businesses, providing software solutions to help our customers grow and leverage the latest technology, all in the cloud. So Acumatica also leverages a channel model with partners like Aktion Associates that focus on sales and deployment, which allows Acumatica to continue investing and focusing on product development. The cloud is a requirement for true digital transformation, and Acumatica is the top cloud ERP solution on the market. It delivers across all key capabilities that companies need, from their business management technology, high availability, remote collaboration, mobility, security, and open standards. Acumatica allows you to stay connected and manage your business from anywhere securely, all in one application. One of the things I've appreciated since joining the Aktion team is how transparent Acumatica is with their customers. They publish this customer bill of rights that you'll see regularly. Coming from another vendor, I appreciate the transparency. Things like number 2, unlimited user access. Number 4, annual contracts with no long-term agreements. And number 8, always having access to your data have all stood out to me. Another item that stood out that's included with Acumatica's licensing is online training through their open university. While Aktion provides training and implementation services, everyone learns at a different pace. Acumatica believes that self-directed training should always be available without cost, and that customers should have access to comprehensive training. Open University is a free, user-friendly learning environment for anyone who wants to learn about new features, get refreshers related to Acumatica. Acumatica's consistent recognition by industry analysts and customers for product quality, usability, and satisfaction directly reflects the unwavering commitment to principles like the customer bill of rights and free unlimited training. Those items ensure every customer gets both the tools and the support they need to succeed. So today we're going to be reviewing the manufacturing edition. While we can't cover every capability today, The Acumatica Manufacturing Edition is purpose-built to resolve some of the most common and costly challenges manufacturers face, from inaccurate inventory and disconnected systems to complex scheduling and limited visibility. With real-time data, integrated financials, and production, Acumatica helps manufacturers take control, improve efficiency, and drive smarter decisions across the operation. So that kind of wraps up my overview. I'll hand it over to Jeff, who's going to take us into the demo and show how it all works in Acumatica. It's going to start out with dashboards, run through stock items and bill of materials, and then a walkthrough of a production order to see it all in action. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Jeff.
Thank you, Matt. I am attempting to share my screen. There we go. All right, I'm gonna go off camera for this as well. Nice to meet everybody. Like Matt said, we're going to start with the dashboards, then go into the stock items, followed by the bill of materials, and we'll finish with a production order. And so showing you here on the screen, this is my production meeting workspace, my dashboard that is. This is very important for manufacturers, whether someone in manufacturing or production control, or you're out in the shop or a plant manager or somebody just doing engineering, something like that. This is where they can get to see all the work that needs to be done. It's a good view for everything that's in there. And again, if you've seen dashboards before in Acumatica, you know that these are all configurable by the end user, and you can mix and match different components as necessary. And this is just a good one all the way around the production meeting dashboard. Has a lot of good, helpful information. I'm letting you stare at it for a little while, but it's all in one spot, and it lists off a whole bunch of different information like orders to be released this week, for today, items that are late, past due. I see over here we have a purchasing section, utilization percentage, items. Again, just a lot of good general information that when you go into a meeting, you can use this as your dashboard, maybe a good bird's eye view of what's going on across the whole department. And all the data you see on these dashboards are drillable. So if we do something like, notice if you're on my purchasing, we have 28 late purchase order lines. So if I drill into that, it takes us to a completely separate browser tab where we're looking at those purchase orders. It'll just give you some ideas of what you're capable of doing. But there's other dashboards. We're highlighting the production meeting dashboard. But again, if I come over here to my dashboards workspace, open this up, and you can see we have several other dashboards around the manufacturing space. But I'm just highlighting the one that is for the production meeting. All right, now let's move forward. That's just, again, an opening for dashboards. Let's go over to the inventory workspace, and specifically we're going to go to stock items because this is where we're introducing some of the concepts around the inventory items, and specifically the items that we're going to include on the bill of materials and in the production order. So let's go directly to my AM 9000. Notice the description even tells us right there it's a manufactured item. And the reason why we start with stock items is because everything we're doing in manufacturing starts here. So whether we're building an item or we need materials to make that item, or their sub-assemblies, raw materials, whatever they are, we can see all of that from the stock item. The item itself covers a couple of points that we want to see for manufacturing, including the item class. So you notice right here, this item, the AM 9000, is a class, is part of that MFG FG class. And so when we assign items to that class, it inherits all the properties of that class. Just makes it really easy for your data entry. Keeps it consistent. But we're going to couple a few other fields here related specifically for manufacturing. And that includes stuff like right here, lot and serial tracking. You may have your items that need to be lot or serial tracked. This one is not. But when you set up those classes, and you can see when I come into that list, I can create classes that are lot or serial specific. And so if this is an item as it's being manufactured that you do need to track the lot or the serial number, those tools are here in the system. Over here on the right-hand side, you see I have unit of measure. Right now I'm buying everything and selling everything via eaches, but I do have the ability to create those conversion rules so that when I'm making the purchases or I'm making the units, that I do have those unit of measures available. Particularly helpful in manufacturing when you may pick up a pallet versus an each. Those are all available across the system. And not just for finished goods, but also for the raw materials, whether we're buying something like steel in pounds or consuming in inches or centimeters, you get to specify those conversions for each particular item. Over here on the manufacturing tab, you can see that we have a default bill of materials. So this is going to be the default that makes that item. We can drill into it. So if I click on the view here, we can pull up the data related to this. It's a little bit of a preview. We'll get into this a little bit later, but I just wanted you to see that we have that button where you can drill back. But think of the bill of material as the as design document. And again, we'll get into that later, but the production order would be the as built. So with that bill of materials, that was the where we're designing it. We can copy those and keep those as two separate documents, etc. Down here, we have the default mark for production. So again, that's telling us that we're going to use that in that system, but we could have set that for other pieces like purchasing, we have transfers, stuff like that. But then we also have your production order defaults. That's going to be over here on your right-hand side. So you see things like my manufacturing lead time, my lot sizes. I've got some mins and maxes for production. I also have an inventory planning tab where, again, the source for how we're getting that inventory is going to be through manufacturing. And you see the mins and maxes, lot size, manufacturing lead time there as well. But over there on the warehouses tab, it's worth noting before I go too deep with that you do have a large variety of options that you can set up for warehouses, whether it's physical warehouses, like you see I have a retail site, I have a wholesale site, but you can create virtual sites, one-time sites, trucks. I know it doesn't have to do anything with manufacturing, but warehouses can be basically anything that you want it to be. But inside of that warehouse, we have warehouse-specific settings. So if I drill into that warehouse blue link there and just open this up a little bit, you see I also have the inventory planning tab. Again, inventory source, planning method is MRP, source is manufacturing, and then we get into the specific settings there. And then on the manufacturing tab, again, the default BOM, replenishment source, manufacturing. And this also applies to components. So while I'm looking at the manufactured item, your components, you may have some values that you want to set here for those components, and then have transfers from one warehouse to another one once you get low on your inventory. So each of those different warehouses can have different settings for components and your finished goods. Another item here worth mentioning on our item tab, just to help out round things off for manufacturing, is my cross references tab. And just worth noting here that we have different types that we can store in the system. So we're looking at this item, again, that's the AM9000, that a customer named Brass Key, you see right here, they have in their system, the part is BR9K, which is different than what we keep in our system. So that's helpful for when we're selling units to them, that we can store their information. And again, here's a vendor part number for the Crane Co. They stored in their system as an AXJ123. But again, we have cross-reference here where we can identify both our customers and parts. And we're not limited to just one. You can keep adding different customers, different parts, global settings, barcodes, etc. You see a global setting here that we named this MFG thing. So that can be helpful across the system. Again, if we're creating different documents, we can always refer back to what our customers and our vendors use in their systems too. But that helps us round off the item itself. So let's move over to the bill of materials. So we're going to go into our bill of materials workspace. And again, I just want to reiterate that a bill of material or BOM, these are as designed documents. And let's open this up a little bit. Well, actually, let me just keep it right here on the workspace. Just to talk about a few of the things that you see here in the list. We can define like different tools, the work centers, overhead, machines. You see that listed down through here. So if we needed to use like jigs or fixtures, consumable tools, different machines in the processes, we're going to have that available in our bill of materials. And we'll see that again here on the bill of material in just a moment, why that's important to talk about that before we get into the BOM. All right, so the bill of material itself, and like you may have already guessed, we're going to go into the AM 9000. That's this BOM 20 right here. And these screens are broken down into a few different options. Like you always see a header section up here on the top on all of these screens. And then we have a middle section here where we're getting into our operations, materials, steps, things like that. And then we got this information down below where as we drill into each of these items, it'll highlight what we're having going on for each of those rows. Okay, so first off, the BOM ID is, what you see right there is highlighted. I told you that was BOM number 20. There's also a revision field. You see that right here. I'm working with revision A, but you could have as many revisions as you like. A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, whatever makes sense for you. And you can use whatever numbering scheme works for you. Those revisions do not have to be the same as the revisions for the end item. You may make it different. You may want a new machine. Maybe you've gone through some Kaizen process and you found a new way to produce something, and it's going to be built a little bit different. So you need to identify that revision. So in here you can give it an ECN. You can put the change all the way through with the proper approvals. Again, if that's what you want to do, but you can make these revisions without those in your system, or if your process allows. So repeating myself a little bit, the top portion of the screen has the ID. And again, that can be a sequential number like you see up here, number 20. This just so happens to be the only revision we have. And then we can also mark it as active or inactive. We can also put it on hold, which allows us to edit the information that you see here. And then once it's live, we may not want to make any more changes, but we can still make copies and put it back on hold, do some other pieces here. Now in the middle, I've already highlighted this once, but we'll do it again. So we have, in this particular BOM, we have 3 operations. Those are numbered 10, 20, and 30. You can have as many as you like. It really depends on your process and how detailed you want to get with your operations. And you can start small and then add operations later. And then you can trim them out. Again, future dates, those great place to make revisions, different ways of doing, each of those different revisions can have different ways of manufacturing maybe the same thing. And then we also have different work centers for each of those operations here too. And over here in this space, we have some different times. There we go, setup time. Right there, I just want to make sure to focus on that. We have setup time, we have run time. In this example, we can get 25 of these items through in an hour. You see that right here. And we can also do 4.5 in about a half an hour, get 2 units through in 1 hour in operation 20. This is all great information. Acumatica is going to do that math for you. It's going to tell you how long something takes depending on the quantity that has been ordered. It's going to tell you how long that run time is. But the setup time is always standard. So whether you're making 1 piece or 1,000 pieces, it's always going to take 1 hour for that first operation. And that's what it's showing you right there. Now, some other additional information that you can include. If you do get down to the machines, you can specify the machine time, the machine units. That machine runs at a different rate. There's also a few other times that you can include. And like you see these items here, and I may have already included that machine time. Make my box a little bit different. There we go. Queue time, finish time, move time. These are advanced scheduling features, things like finish time. Maybe you just painted something and it takes 2 hours for the paint to dry before it goes to the next operation. You can also specify that here in Acumatica, it's not going to schedule that next operation for 2 more hours. It's great to know you don't push things right through and now we're like smudging the paint, something like that. Then you have a quality issue. Also, with move time, maybe you've got something in a different part of the facility. Maybe it is across the parking lot. You've got to go get a forklift to go and move that over there. So maybe it takes an hour and a half an hour, something like that. You can schedule that time so that we don't think as soon as we're finished with one operation that we can immediately move on to the next. We need to have that buffer. This gives you that little piece of space in between all of those. Again, those are all optional fields. You don't have to use it, but it's great if you do need them. And it's fine if you don't. You can always adopt them at a later point in time as well. Then it's also worthy of note that we have that you can back flush items, and you can see that here on the labor and then down below in the materials too. And what this means is it lets you, not have to go on every line and report every step that you did. So you can go straight down to 30 and report what you did on line 30, and then it's going to automatically back flush that quantity to operation 10, operation 20. So it's going to flush that backwards, whatever ones have that little back flush flag checked off. And now that we have those flags available in here in the as design document, when you put it over to production, you may say, that this is the first time we're making it. We do want to do back flushing, or we don't want to do back flushing, so you can override it when we get over to that production order, which is the as-built structure. All right, so let's move on down to the bottom section here. There's a lot going on. That's the section you see down here with all the different tabs. And specifically, we are on the materials tab. That's the one that's currently highlighted. So as I select different operations up here on top, that information will adjust down there in the bottom. So if I moved on down to like the third operation, there's nothing going on in the inspection step. In the second line, which is the assembly, I use certain materials, and then when I'm cutting, I have other materials that'll be associated with that. Okay, we're talking about the materials that are used in these operations. Notice that there can be different materials and different units of measures and different quantities, and we're tracking the different costs as they go into the system. And as you saw when it picked up on the different operations, different materials show, and it comes right back to those units and measures that we talked about when we reviewed the item. All of this is very well tied together. If you buy something in one unit of measure, you can consume it in a production order in a different unit of measure. And yes, we're a bill of materials, but that's going to also feed right into the production order. Now we move on to the steps tab. Now, something important that's in here is that when we look at the steps, you'll see that in steps, there can be a shop floor instruction. These can be detailed instructions. And one area that we have not really focused on would be notes. We got notes everywhere. So up here on the top of the document, we have a note field. On each line, you see that we have notes. And then down here in the steps, we have notes. Notes everywhere, included in every step, every process, every document. Back over on the item, we had notes. And what I really like about these is that as we're doing these steps, especially if you're a highly engineered company and you're tracking every ECM that goes through, you can specify these detailed steps and then put in an ECN against one of these or an ECR. Maybe we're going to change the second point. We're no longer going to deburr to a certain level. We're going to change that to assembly. Maybe we're going to tumble it somewhere. We can specify that you can go through the engineering request and change process. All the way through, we can identify this specific line. That's only if we want to. You certainly can use any of the notes that are out there. Those will certainly be helpful on any of the shop floor paperwork that goes along there too. And then we also have files. Notice in this bill of material, we have 2 files. You can see that with the paper clip and that number 2. Again, files are everywhere. Again, every line, there you see the paperclip on all of these lines everywhere. Files and notes, files and notes. And so if I drill into those files, we can see that we have a drawing for, for this particular item. We also have, let me close that down. We also have the assembly structure. This is how we designed it. It's a lot of great information. Maybe it's from other PDFs or other documents that you want to attach in there. You can attach as many as you want, and these will get passed down to the production order. So let's keep talking about some of the other options in here. So I mentioned back when we had the bill of materials workspace open that we could create tools in the system. So if we move over to the next tab down here on the bottom, I do not have tools in this process, but you could. So maybe, like I said, maybe we have a jig or a fixture that we want to include in this particular structure. We want to include the cost of it, or we just want to include that we've used it. You can identify those here, and they can be scheduled, they can be planned, and they can be put on the schedule as well. So all this information can be listed in here. Then we have the overhead tab. And again, we saw that back on the bill of materials workspace. We can add overhead, and if we did, we could do something like over here on this work center. We can add additional overhead, not only to the overhead tab itself, but in the work center, which we really haven't talked about. It has its own overhead tab. And so these can have their own costs. We can have that overhead flow, again, from that work center down into that bill of material. And then finally, we have outside processes. Another area, again, I don't have a lot of data in here, but I just want to make sure to open that up. It lets you identify vendors and costs that are going to be applied for some activity, usually an operation step that's handled outside the company. If you do specify one here, it'll go down to the production order, and in that production order, we can ship that out, include the shipping paperwork. We can have purchasing activities. We can collect all the costs. They're scheduling those receipts in and out. So maybe if you were sending something out for plating or heat treating, something like that, maybe you've got 10,000 units that you're sending out, and you've only sent out 10. You can get 500 back. Maybe another 200 or 2,000 need to get out. We're keeping track of all those ins and outs all the way through the process, and you can start that process here. You can identify what you're doing inside of the bill of materials that'll get you translated down to the production order. And then finally here on that BOM, we have our actions menu, maybe a more actions menu, something along those lines. So when we were talking earlier about that you can make copies of the bill of material, there's that line for this. And so maybe you're going to make something similar to this. So use that copy option. It's going to easily support that function. You can also calculate the cost. So you can also mark items as a default. So back when we were in the item setup, we were looking at the default bill of materials, here's where that took place. This is where we created it as the default. Because you may have a couple of those out there. It's not ready to go live yet. You can wait and see it. Maybe that one's going to be the default. Maybe after going through the ECN process, someone says, yes, this is where it is. Boom, click this option. This is going to be where it sets. We can also do the engineering change request. So generally speaking, there's some great tools right here for your bill of materials. All right, moving on. So that was, again, the bill of materials, the as designed document. And so from there, we can go over to our production order workspace. And again, if we pause right here, there's a lot of great information available in our production order. We won't go into great detail with this today, but you see things like we've got our labor, our move, materials, all kinds of different information, and including like labor, the scanning options here. We have clock entry, scan move. Same thing with materials. We can take advantage of this functionality, the scanning of the items. Let's go ahead and go into the production order. And that's right here in my production order, maintenance. And just like we've been working with up until now, we're going to go straight to that AM 9000. And that is right there. And the screens are similar. We've got our header on the top. And that header information that you see up there is going to match what we had back over on the bill of materials. And so there's a lot going on. Clearly some unique information that we want to identify. So down there in the general tab, that's what we currently have highlighted. We have some dates over here that are flowing in. That's, again, unique to this information. What else does it tell us? That we, up here on the top, that we have 25 that we're trying to produce through this process. And then on our references tab, again, very important, we know which order right here. Go ahead and go highlight the whole thing, but you can see the sales order 7748 is where this came from. It doesn't have to be that way, but we can tell right away from looking at this production order what's going on. We can tell if this was copied over from which bill of materials. We can also identify that it was here. If you have multiple bills of material and if you're going through a few revisions, we can know which one of these was built on. We can also go and see the history. You know, why did we put this together? Why was this hole not drilled in this for this item? Because you may have those kind of questions. Why do we do it this way? So we know exactly which bill of material and which revision we were working on in this process. Also note down here, and that's what I meant with this source section. Over here on the right-hand side, we have our project. So if this is project related, because some manufacturers do work with projects, then we can see which project this is related to. When we have events, now this is a fun one because we can see exactly everything that's been going on across the system as we've been creating information. So like, when was the production order created? We know that the admin created this order, the date that it was created, the date that it was released, which was the same day, maybe just a little bit later from a different user. Again, we know who released it. We know if it was put on hold and back on releasing it. We'll see all those activities if materials were issued against it. Who issued it? You know, was it Andrews? You know, he released it. When did he release it? Why did he release it? Then we also have things like the labor transaction right here. And then we can also see that somebody printed the production order. And then materials, for example, we can see maybe this is like, maybe you call this the traveler. And if we drill back into that information, you know, here's the ticket. Again, ticket, traveler, whatever makes sense. So this was issued on operation number 10. You see that right here. So remember that from the bill of material when we were looking at that earlier. These are the same materials. And here's the quantities that were issued with that. And then we talked about that labor just a moment ago. When I drill back into the labor, we can see that this time was entered by employee number 4 right there. And then I need to open this up a little bit more so you can see more data. They entered specifically 4 hours, but they ignored the clock entry. We just let them enter the time directly. You know, and again, that's helpful information because it's going to help us drive and understand what kind of cost went in there for that production order. All right. Now let's go to the totals tab, and we have 3 sections. We have the planned section, the actual section, and variance. Planned, you know, like it sounds like this is what we intended to do. This is what we were planning all along, but the actual shows, you know, what was actually issued. That's this section right here. So we see that we have the 40, how much material. We have a total of 2,146.25 that we've issued on this product. So where do we stand on the cost at this moment right now? the whip balance. And then over here, the variance, just think of that as the difference between what we plan to do and what we're actually doing. So we're still missing 17 hours. We're short on some items so far, just giving you an idea of what's going on. And then way over there on the far right-hand side, these are what we call side panels. And again, useful information so that you can drill back on data without getting too specific. These can be restricted, or they can be unlimited. You can use these to, so there's a lot of information going on here. So it's just really tracking some analytics on this particular side panel. So in this case, what do we have here? We have, it's showing us operation 10 that we've worked on. Down here, the amount of labor that we've put into this so far. If we keep scrolling down, we'll see, again, just a visual of what we were talking about with those variances. So again, a lot of good information here. And you can go with any and all of those different side panels accordingly. So it's just a great, great snapshot of where you stand with the details. Up here on the top, we have the production details. So when I click on this, it's kind of really easy to go through the production details. This should look very familiar from when we were looking at the bill of materials. We have the header, we have the middle, we have the bottom. All of this is pretty much the same. A couple of differences. We don't show a revision at the top because we're not concerned about the revision. This is what we actually did. That revision is managed back in the bill of materials. This is really the specific production order. We have the quantities. Let's see right over here that we know that we're supposed to produce. So we have, we're supposed to do 25. We've done 10 on that first operation. There we go. You see we have 10 on that first operation. Then we still have a whole lot more to do. And then down here in the bottom section, well, we've got a little note that came up here overlapping here, but I wanted to make sure to point out that we have the quantities that we have available down here on the bottom with each of these operations. Again, very important. So you know what you have available, what kind of materials do we need. But up here on the top, if I go, I'm gonna go back to the production order maintenance and hit my more button here. There's a report here for critical materials. It's going to let us know what we need for the production. Starts off with blank, but if I do show, because we do have the materials, but if we show all items and what's allocated, again, very helpful for us when we're doing the production, that we can and see that the items that we have, that we need, that we have remaining, a little bit of everything. All right, let's go back to the production order again, just one more time, and just kind of stop here at the more menu options that we have. Just talk about the options we have available, like putting items on hold, releasing, completing the order, canceling the order. Those are the top. We already talked a little bit about details you get. We did the critical materials section, but again, just a lot of different ways that you can manipulate and go through the different sets of data that are in the system. And then finally, production ticket. Now this is going to be useful. So we have barcodes turned on here. You can print this out, and this will be traveling across the floor. It's the traveler, whatever terminology you prefer to go with. But it gives you something that you can scan, whether you're using a scanner, a camera, a mobile device, a scanner attached to your PC, whatever it is. You can take advantage of the barcodes that are listed here. And we do have multiple pages of this. So as it's going from operation to operation, from work center to work center, location to location, you'll have all that data available to you. And with that being said, we've covered the 4 different areas: dashboards, stock items, the bill of materials, and the production order. And I hope that you appreciated and enjoyed this demonstration. And I look forward to seeing future demonstrations.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much, gentlemen. It was a wonderful presentation. With that, I think we are going to go ahead and roll into our Q&A session. It does look like we have a few questions. And if you do have any questions while we cover these, please be sure to throw them in the Q&A box and we'll get to them shortly. And so let's go ahead and get started. All righty. One question we have here. Are there batch and process manufacturing capabilities?
There certainly are. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We have both available in Acumatica. Yeah.
Wonderful. All right, and Greg and Ryan, feel free to hop in as well if you have an answer as well.
Right.
All right. Next question. Is standard cost, actual cost, and average cost tracking supported?
Yes, those are all supported.
Totally.
And actual cost would actually be called specific cost, and that would work if you're using lot and serial items.
Awesome. Perfect. All right. And this looks like it may be our last question. So let's go ahead and push this sucker. All right. Does Acumatica support lot and serial tracking?
Yeah, it
yes,
totally
it does.
Yeah, I covered that a little bit in the item setup and when we covered that early on. But it's an option. So you can either turn it on for a lot or serial or choose not to go with it either way.
And just to add to that, there's a couple of different behaviors. You can collect it as you're receiving the item or producing the item, or you may not need to capture those until you're actually shipping it out. So there's some options there.
Awesome. Perfect.